Thank you, Kate. Well, just to welcome everyone. Thank you once again for being here, joining us on this fantastic effort that is Voices for Peace. This is a joint partnership between a series of organizations. The Climate Youth Resilience, Greenpeace Africa, Roots, the Positive Peace Society, the 50%, and the Fifth Element, the Sokakaka International. We're a set of organizations that we're really happy to be sharing these moments and being able to reflect on what are the important things to talk about when we talk about peace and how we can make this a larger network of peace building. So thank you very much for being here, and the floor is yours, Kate.
Thank you, Matthias, and thanks to everyone on the webinar today. It's really good to see everyone. My name is Kate, and I am the Head of Human Rights Education at the International Secretariat of Amnesty International, and my pronouns are she and her. We're really delighted as Amnesty to be part of the organising group for this webinar series, and really want to thank all the partners who are in this process. I'm not going to list them all again because Matthias just did that, so thank you. From our side, like when we think about this concept that we've been discussing in this series of webinars around planetary peace, I think there's probably for all of us on this webinar many things that could come to mind. So just a few that I was thinking of, we could think about the prevention of further atrocities in relation to the genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. We can think about climate justice. We can think about the prevention of gender-based violence and much, much more. From our perspective, Amnesty, we know that human rights are central to any concept of peace, and importantly, that human rights education is really a vital tool in the kind of co-creation of knowledge and skills that enables us to build, action for human rights and peace around the world. Today, you're going to hear from some Amnesty educators and activists on their work. In the webinar, they're going to explore a bit the intersection between human rights, peace, and courageous leadership, and they're going to spotlight a program, one of the programs that are across many of the Amnesty national organizations, which are called Human Rights Friendly Schools, and they're going to highlight some of the very inspiring practices and tools and stories that really show us how this kind of courageous human rights and peace leadership is developed for human rights education, and through which we're building and making contribution to peaceful and just societies. So today you're going to hear from Rodrigo and Luisa from Amnesty Portugal, and then afterwards from Mabel and James from Amnesty Ghana. They're going to begin with a short overview of some of their HRE work in their respective countries, and then there's going to be a conversation between Mabel and Rodrigo in the next part of it, and then finally there'll be a space at the end for any comments or questions or contributions that you have. Before we kind of launch into the hearing from our speakers, we wanted to do just a little kind of icebreaker and ask you a couple of questions in a poll. So hopefully this will go smoothly, but let's see. So Ruth, do you mind launching the poll, and then everybody can see if it works. If it doesn't work, we can.
It doesn't work. It
didn't work. Okay.
No, it didn't work. So I'm thinking we could just
I've just changed your permissions to full host.
Yes, but I don't seem to see the option, and I'm sorry because I cannot launch the poll. That's usually I don't see it in the options as co-host, but it's fine. Not to lose time. We could just maybe use the old-fashioned inputting in the chat. So it was just short. We wanted to know what region are you joining from. So if you could just write on the chat and let us know which region are you joining from. And then we have another nice question today. Have you been involved in human rights or peace education before? So that will be also if you say where your region is, if you want. and then say yes or no, so that we give us also an understanding, of our audience in the webinar today.
Yeah, that's
Thank
great.
you.
And
Sorry.
no, that's fine. We always anticipate there may be technical problems. So the poll will probably pop up halfway through the webinar or something. But anyway, yeah, if you want to share where your location, where you are, that would be great, just to get an idea, but you don't have to, or if you've worked in peace or human rights education. But yeah, just again, thank you all for joining. And I'm now going to hand over to Louisa and Rodrigo. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Kate. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for to 50% and all the organizations that are organizing this webinar series. Thank you for inviting us to share our experience on human rights education and how hopefully human rights education and sure contribute to peace issues and to a more peaceful society. So I'm very glad to be here, and I'll be here with Rodrigo and all the colleagues from Ghana to share this couple of things with you. I will be quite brief because we will give the floor to Rodrigo and Mabel, who have some interesting testimonies for us. But I will start to introduce the Human Rights Friendly School Project. I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Luisa, I'm from Amnesty Portugal, and I am the Human Rights Education Coordinator, and I'm involved with this Human Rights Friendly Schools project for a couple of years. And well, that's what I'm talking in a few minutes about it. I will share a brief presentation just to share some photos with you, if that's okay. But I don't think I can do it. No, I don't think I can do it, but that's okay. Then we go along without presentation. We go old-fashioned style, like just talking with it. So this human rights friendly.
If you now Ruth is the host of the meeting, so if she puts you as co-host, you should be able to share a presentation. Sorry for jumping in.
Okay, it's okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthias. Yeah, I was going to do that now. Luisa, can you try to say your presentation?
Yeah.
Thank
okay. You. Okay. I think you are seeing it now.
We can see it.
Yeah. Just trying to go full board. Okay. So the Human Rights Friendly Schools project, it's an international project. It started with the International Secretariat of Amnesty some years ago. In Portugal, we started in 2014, so we are running it for more than 10 years now. And we also have colleagues here from Ghana who are also running the program. So that's we are sharing this experience. In Portugal, we are working with 15 schools. That's few schools, but that's one of the characters of this project, because we have a very close relationship with this school. So we are growing slowly to support and to have more proximity with these schools. What we do in the program is based on these three dimensions of human rights education. So we work to build knowledge about human rights. So we try to address issues in schools, to raise awareness about human rights education, to go deeper on knowledge about human rights, so people can know what are human rights, know what kind of protection, international, national, and so on, have human rights. So get to know this knowledge about human rights. And so the other dimension is true human rights. And this is quite important, because this dimension means that everyone in this process must have this human right, its human rights respected. So if we are doing human rights education, so we have to do it with coherent methodologies. We have to promote participative actions. We have to promote the participation of all people. We have to go, the whole process must respect everyone who is involved. So this is very important. The last dimension, it's for human rights, and this is the ultimate goal indeed. When we do human rights education, we are trying to bring people to act for human rights. So it's about bringing informed activism to this project. And with these 3 dimensions, we kind of have this old school approach, because these activities doesn't happen only in classes. We don't do things just in the classroom. The old school approach means that human rights are in the procedures of the school, that are in the relations between people, that are like a guide in people's relations in the school. Some other things that characteristics, sorry, that some of the words are quite difficult for me in English, but we have these 3 also dimensions. With this is a long-term journey. It's not something, it's like human rights education. It's not just one action that we do sometime in the year. It's a process. It's a long-term journey. We are working with schools, for instance, for 10 years. So this is a long-term journey and relation that we built in schools in order to create a community, to create a human rights environment in the schools. So it's like human rights education. It's a process that develop knowledge and skills and attitudes in people to allow everyone to be more informed and to exercise and claim human rights. And then this thing about informed activism, it's something when we go further, or when we know further about human rights, when we have more knowledge, when we know more about issues and subjects and specific situations, our activism become more strong, because we know about, we are acting in an informed way. So it's what we want to promote is this informed activism, and it's not something that we want to prescribe. We want to build in connection with the community and see what's important in the school community to take care of, and to try to get solutions to that. And then the international solidarity and action, of course, because Amnesty works at the international level, so we bring a lot of issues, even locally, but also international issues. In the images, you see some of the actions that we have been doing in the last years, and some of the outcomes of the program is this right-based peace initiative. So when we learn about human rights and specific situations, for instance, in the last year we talked about a lot about the situation in Gaza. We worked with young people on this situation. We built actions together to bring knowledge and to raise awareness about this subject, also about Ukraine. But well, we were focused on these major conflicts, but of course that when we talk about this, we're also talking about other situations, similar situations that happen in the world, unfortunately. But this is something that we built in connection with people. We bring these subjects, but then we explore with them what's the best ways to connect to other people, if they are okay with these subjects, if they want to deal with it in another way. So it's kind of very flexible relation to work with these schools. Another outcome is the youth leadership. So we try, and we really invest on this, is try to bring people young people to to be the leaders of the initiatives, and to bring other students, to bring other colleagues, to promote peer education, because it's much it has a big impact when you heard from your peers and not from your teacher or not from someone from the organization. It has a really strong impact when your peers are bringing these subjects to you and are suggesting to organize and make things happen around human rights issues. And the other dimension is the student's journey. This is a great strength of this project, because it's a long-term journey. We kind of build a path to the students who are with us. So we have students that started in human rights friendly schools in 2014 and are still in Amnesty with us, in other spaces of activism, in other youth collectives. So the human rights friendly schools kind of provide a student journey or an activist journey that is very, very, very good for us in Amnesty, and very good, I think, for the journey of the young who are with us. Rodrigo, who I'll pass the floor in some seconds, will share this journey. Yeah, I was thinking Ruth already. yeah. But Rodrigo will explore a little bit more about the student journey, because he is one of the young people who is still with us for a couple of years. So thank you very much for your attention.
So, hi, I hope everyone can hear me quite good. So, as Luisa stated, I started in a human rights friendly school, looking for inclusion, looking for peers that have the same mentality as me, and to find something in common. That was one of the main reasons why I joined the human rights friendly school program in my school. Um, inside of the program, I found people that respected me, people who worked together as me and them work together to fight injustices in a small scale in our community. During the program, I learned a lot about youth motivation, tips and tricks, how to work around certain situations. I started to create youth collaborations, to do activism and fight for peace inside our community, inside our small village, like small city in this case. Um, all that while being taught by the school coordinator of the program and our wonderful Luisa and the program of Amnesty. They taught me a lot, and a lot of other people in the program in my high school. After the program and a bit during and after, I joined different youth-led campaigns created by Amnesty. One being called Reconhece, that focused on youth explanation of mental health to other peers, where we tried to publishing information on Instagram about mental health and how to live with it, how to know that it's okay, and that a lot of people live with it. And even we went to schools and talked with little kids, with tweens about it, and it was really nice. Then another one called Multiplica, that I can share the Instagram page in the chat after I talk, where it's also youth-led, and we share and try to add new members to Amnesty by sharing everything that we do. We also shared this webinar, hopefully they saw it, where we share a lot of things that Amnesty does. But I always focused on also youth-led campaigns, given that I think youth learn with youth, especially me. I learn a lot from my peers. That's why I also in university I also joined REAJ. It's a local group in the University of Coimbra in Portugal, where I study, where we are college students fighting for human rights, for peace. We do advocacy. We do a lot of things. Always helped and supported by Amnesty with the inside of the human rights education and all the system that we learn from human rights friendly schools. So here we can explore more, we can use our voice and be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Rodrigo and Luisa. Would you like to give the floor to your colleagues from Ghana?
Yeah, I can do it. Yeah. Well, thank you, Rodrigo, for your testimony, and we can talk a little bit later about that. So I'll pass the floor to James from Ghana.
Thank you very much, Louisa. And thank you very much, Rodrigo, as well, for that very good introduction to our Human Rights Friendly Schools program. So once again, everyone, my name is James Kwashi. I'm Human Rights Education Coordinator for Amnesty Ghana. And much like Louisa, I'll be speaking about our Human Rights Friendly Schools program, how it began, some of its aims and outcomes, and also how it's transitioned and what we're doing with it going forward. And then next we'll hear from Mabel, who is one of our youth leaders within the Amnesty movement in Ghana and has served in various leadership positions within the movement as well. So our Human Rights Friendly Schools program also began in 2014, initially targeting 10 schools across the Greater Accra region and also the central regions of Ghana. It looked at some of the main concerns of these schools, which was high rates of bullying. And so the program aimed to bring students together to discuss anti-discrimination, inclusion, anti-bullying, and harassment prevention. It also thankfully was able to target many of the school teachers who have since become members within the Amnesty movement and have over the past decade helped us gain more traction within the school and within the educational system to be able to have more of our membership visit these schools and conduct human rights education activities within the schools. We've also worked with the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice. That is a key national institution that promotes human rights and human rights education in Ghana. And this year, with their partnership, we were also able to reach 30 schools with additional workshops on human rights prevention. So our program, after many years of being run, focusing on many of the same things that Louisa mentioned, that's building lifelong activist journeys for young people to come into the Amnesty movement from that program and then stick around as lifelong members promoting human rights throughout their various communities. We've also achieved similar outcomes with many of the youth who joined us 2014, 2015, Mabel being one of them. But we, based on some feedback and also different
We lost James. Yes. Hopefully he will be back soon. Okay, that is the live happens in the webinars. I'm just wondering, Mabel, if you would like to maybe come in as we wait for James to come back. Thank you.
Right. Hi, everyone. Okay, so my name is Mabel Yati, and then a member of Amnesty International Ghana, and then a former member for the National Youth Coordinating Team in Ghana. Okay, so I'm here to share my experience as a benefactor of the Human Rights Friendly School project, and then how it helped me gain some leadership position in the organization. Okay, to start, I was introduced to Amnesty in high school by the current program coordinator for Amnesty International Ghana. Yes, and then through high school. Before then, to me, human rights were only about laws and then government meeting to sign out new treaties and stuff. I had no idea that human rights goes a long way to even have an effect on my life. So after the introduction, I then got to know my basic fundamental human rights, and then that helped me go about my daily life. So straight forward to university, I joined the Amnesty group on campus, and then later became the group leader for the group on campus. And then there were times we had campaigns, there were times we came together to have discussions as youth, and then how we think our human rights can be protected on campus. And then we even went as far as creating a podcast to educate the youth in Ghana about their fundamental human rights. And then right after university, I was elected as the team member, the National Youth Coordinating Team member in charge of human rights education and then youth engagement. So I must say that my exposure to the human rights friendly school has been a good one, because since I joined, it's been one leadership position to the other, one leadership position to the other. And then currently I am more embraced about human rights. So if there is a discussion about human rights, trust me to voice out so far as I know something about the topic of discussion. So even in university, my friends were calling me I know my right, because anything that has to do with human rights, you would find me over there defending someone's rights or trying to let them see reasons why human rights of people must be respected. Okay, so fast forward, I would say the project has been very, 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 very helpful in a sense that so now it has empowered me, and then not to talk about the confidence level. If I am to speak about human rights issues anywhere, any day, I have the Human Rights Friendly School project to be thankful for, because it's gave me that confidence level. It has shaped my leadership skills as well, and also empowered me with regards to human rights related issues. So today, if I'm no longer a youth, but then a member of Amnesty International Ghana, I know for sure that the project has built in me something. It has given me the confidence I need to respect the rights of others, to defend the rights of others, and also to cause a change wherever I find myself, be it in the school, be it in the community, be it in any public space I find myself. So I'm very grateful to the Human Rights School Project for making me a human rights intellect. Yes, I'll say that. So I'm grateful to Amnesty International Ghana for that opportunity. Thank you all for having me here.
Thank you, Mabel. And I think we have James back. James?
Hi, Ruth. Thank you so much. So my network seems to be betraying me today, but I think Mabel jumped in just at the right time and said much of what I was going to say. As part of our contribution to peace building, our human rights education programs, now through what used to be that old human rights friendly school model, continues to promote inclusivity and a proper appreciation of the need to have human rights and to have people live free from violence and non-discrimination. And I think those are central tenets to peace building. And if we can keep on building this kind of lifelong journey for young people to be dedicated to building that culture, I think we're definitely on a great path to having a more just and improved society. Thank you again.
James, yeah, Luis and James. Yes.
Okay. So thank you, James and Mabel, for also for your testimonies. And we now have a space for Rodrigo and Mabel maybe to deepen a little bit what they were sharing in their first introductions. So I'll pass to them to have a little chat about it.
So thank you. And first of all, thank you to James and Mabel to share your experiences and everything in Ghana. It was really helpful and insightful. We got a few of key questions to organize this little debates, little panel, and I wanted to start to answer the first one. It was, how can schools become active agents of peace in their communities? In Portugal, with the Human Rights Friendly Schools program, they can become active agents in advocacy for peace by giving lessons on human rights. That we did have a few. Sometimes someone will come to our school and talk about human rights and give a little lesson on it. And most of the time, students are interested in it. Then after all the presentation and so on, they will come to the group that was created in the schools and will want to join us or want to ask about different types of things that they never thought about, especially given that our school is mostly white prominent, so the privilege is there, and most of the people come to our school asking about the privileges and the lack of human rights for an example, people of color that they never thought about. And it's a really good feeling seeing people that never thought about discrimination, never thought about their own privilege, come speak to us to understand it better. That's one way of how schools can become more inclusive and fight for peace, by giving lectures that most of the times aren't given in the curriculum. Another part would be where volunteers, it can be teachers, it can be people, volunteers from Amnesty, go and create a group and talk about everything they can do to spread peace in the schools, being it for bullying, being it for any other type of discussion, to create a sort of safe place, a safe haven where they can talk about everything without any type of judgment that maybe can come from their homes or from politicians or even just by other colleagues that might not want to talk about this type of things. So one thing that my school did, and I think every school should do, is create a small group for discussions on topics that may be controversial in academic curriculum. Maybe most of the times in history class, we don't want to talk about the negative sides of something. I think a group that talks about it and sees how human rights were affected or were neglected there could be really helpful to spread peace. Maybe, would you like to add something?
All right, so thank you very much, Rodrigo. So from my perspective, I think Amnesty Ghana is already doing an incredible job when it comes to the youth becoming active peace builders. So why am I saying this? So for all the universities in Ghana, we have an Amnesty International club on campus, and then the office in Ghana has taken it upon themselves to train each individual that belongs to these groups on campuses. So there are times that they have a capacity building workshop to educate these young ones on peace building. There are times that there are campaigns that we are allowed to take. Okay, so though this is already in the system, I think it would be best if a different approach is taken for those in primary school, because we know they are the young ones coming now. And then it would be best if the various offices would have a look at introducing these human rights friendly schools to the ones in the primary, because I think it will go a long way to instill in them or enlighten them about their fundamental human rights. So before they get to senior high school, or before they get to the university, then they are already abreast with what human rights is, when to speak up, and when to defend the rights of others. Yes. So I think looking at the primary school would also be a great factor. And then it will also go a long way in a sense that before these young ones grow, they are already agents of peace in their society. And also we could empower the youth on the various campuses to also have community-based initiatives to empower community people on their human rights. Okay, so there is an organization in Ghana that trains young ones before election. Even Amnesty does that. So before election, they train young ones to go out and then have a forum with community people to let them know about their rights during the elections, the do's and don'ts, and then somehow, some way, this goes a long way to minimize violences during election, and also it affects the outcome of election results. So I think if we are to look at incorporating human rights friendly school for primary schools, it would go a long way to get us more peace agents in the future here. Thank you.
So the second question that was presented to us was, what lessons have emerged from the Human Rights Friendly Schools program that can be scaled or adapted globally? In my case, I think it's quite a tricky question, given that each school has different needs. But from my school and my experience from other places that I have applied, things that I learned with the Human Rights Friendly School program, is that everyone in school should have a choice and a voice when deciding final things. I know that most schools, at least my school, included us from the Human Rights Friendly School program, at least the volunteers inside of it, to be present when there is school decisions with the student present, the student council and so on. Human rights were present there, and we could talk about it. Even when rereading and redoing the stated rules for the school, the human rights, we were there. We were present to understand and to see what is being decided with or without us. So I think giving choice and giving voice to youth, even if one representative of the whole group, youth group, can be really helpful in letting things be equal, so that so that authorities like the principals and teachers don't have all the say, and include young voices to be heard, because most of the things that they are planning will affect the youth more than it will affect them. So having youth present in it would be really good. We also try to implement programs that aren't strictly in the curriculum. In this case, it could be programs on human rights, how to defend it. We had some little lectures on women and discrimination against them in our school, because we had some cases there. We also had an anti-bullying campaign. I think programs such as these ones that can maybe take 1 hour, 1 hour and a half lectures can be really useful and should be spread alongside all other schools. Maybe not globally, or maybe globally they could be adapted to what the school needs. In our case, it was women discrimination and bullying. In others, it can be something else. And I think that such little programs talking about human rights and human rights education can change a lot, and giving voice to younger people.
All right. So for me, I think one lesson I've learned is that youth engagement and then youth participation is always a key to successful campaigns. Why am I saying this? So over the years, as a member or a youth leader with Amnesty International, I observed that whenever there is a campaign or an action to be taken, and then the youth are involved in these decisions, then there is a successful campaign. So we all know the youth are the workforce now, and then they carry this fire in them, they carry this charisma in them to ensure that things are right. Yes, so from my point of view, I think if globally all human rights organizations or CSOs would have a lot of youth engagement in their projects or in their actions, then they would have a successful event. So this then brings us to why there is a need to support youth-led right-based initiatives. So when the young ones are empowered, okay, that's also I was saying, they ensure that everything is being done right. So in Ghana, we have some movements that when there is something that isn't going on in the country, they come together and form a peaceful protest just to ensure that their voices are being heard. And also, we have a lot of youth that have brilliant ideas on how we could include everyone when it comes to human rights issues. So I think listening to their ideas and then helping them to execute these ideas would also benefit all of us. Okay, so in the sense that if human rights organizations are always about their ways, most organizations have their schedule or their timeline, and then this have to be done this way, this have to be done this way. So what I'm saying is that if youth are to be incorporated in all these ideas, if the young ones are to be given an opportunity to also express themselves on particular ideas, then I think whatever decision that will be taken at the end would be the best, because these young ones always think in a sense that they include everyone. And then they look at the long-term possibilities of each ideas. Yes.
Thank you, Mabel. So a next question that we were presented was, how can youth be supported to lead right-based peace initiatives? And in my experience, what we need is trust. Organizations may have youth involvement. However, we need trust to create and support such campaigns ourselves. I know not all organizations, but I have experience with some where the youth is just used as tokenism, just to be there and not to have a voice in it. And I think the one thing that Amnesty is doing right is using youth voices. It's one of the organizations that I work with that does it the most. And we need our voice to be heard in decision making, in creating campaigns, in protests, whenever. Because if we don't have the trust from the organization itself, how can we trust ourselves to do change? And with the human rights friendly program in our schools, we were given trust. Some of the programs and the campaigns that we did it by ourselves, just with the help of Louisa and the coordinator in our school. However, most of the times they stand it on the backside. They would intervene in legal action, maybe to talk to the police about a protest or something. But everything, the organization by itself, was created by youth. And that in some way sustained or helped us gain more willpower to do something, because we were given space to do it ourselves and not just follow rules given by someone superior than us. So I think something that needs to be done, not in Amnesty, or not just in Amnesty, in all organizations that want youth do have this willpower to do peace activism and advocacy, is to trust us, to give us our voice, to hear us, so that we can create the change that we also want to achieve. Mabel, do you add something?
All right, so I think also if we are to give visibility to youth-led initiatives, that would also help. So what am I saying is, so youth-led initiatives, when they are being showcased, it sometimes attract people to know what's going on. So with Amnesty International Ghana, sometimes we have outdoor engagements, and then these engagements are full of youth. So then you get people asking questions: what are they doing? Which organization is this? And then that's when you start enrolling more members for your organization, because once the ideas are being placed out there, then you get people who are interested and then who want to know more about their human rights. Okay, and also the peer education. So during my time as a youth leader, we sometimes had Zoom meetings where we call it an open forum, and then we allow each youth member to share ideas on best ways or their concerns about a certain issue. And then when all these ideas or concerns are placed together, we then form an action or a document out of it that informs our next decisions and then our next activity. Yes, so.
Lastly, we were given the question, what made it possible for schools involved in the Human Rights Friendly Schools program to be able to include human rights education? And are there any learnings that we can take from it? In my experience, human rights education can be present in human rights friendly schools if they can motivate the teachers to motivate the students. If we just give the curriculum or just give lectures to teachers to spread the word to their students, in my experience, most of the time it doesn't work. If the teacher truly wants to be present in human rights education, they must in certain way be motivated to do so and motivate the students. Because if we just ask somebody from Amnesty to come and give a lecture, most of the time students won't be my experience, of course, won't be like focused on the presentation itself and just want to get out. At least it's happened in my school a lot of times. So one thing that we learned from it was to motivate the teachers, to motivate the students. If one teacher or two or a group of them want to create this change, they can do it. Amnesty helps them by giving them some kind of educational background to help them evolve and structure everything that they need to do. And then the teachers can motivate us. That's one thing that really helped, being the teachers being present in all of it. Also, all the lectures given in that period when I was attending my high school had some kind of a human rights focus in it. At least in one class that we call like citizenship. Most of the times it wasn't focused on human rights, but just on civilian, religion, etc. But with conversations, we tried to implement human rights, and it worked really well. I also know that Portugal is now having some law changes about it, but most of the schools can do it individually. They follow the curriculum given by the state, but however can add something by them for them, and human rights being present in it, it's a key factor because that class is once a week, it's for an hour, and if there is a background touching human rights and touching peace and advocacy, students are engaged slowly and slowly, and it can help a lot. And I think that's what's helped us, our community, my school, and all the other 10 14 in this case schools in Portugal. It helped us a lot having present teachers that most of the times aren't present in other things. Mabel, I would love to hear what you have to say about this.
So for me, I think some of the factors that made human rights education possible in the human rights friendly schools would include policy openness. So, you know, Ghana is really particular when it comes to culture, but then the flexibility in our curriculum, has allowed integration of human rights into our civic education and also clubs. So for Ghana, there is a course in primary that's called social studies, and then this course enlightens students about everything they need to know about their society, their country, and then the world round. So then they have the opportunity to look at their fundamental human rights. They have the opportunity to look at their responsibility as citizens in their country as well. And also when the Human Rights Friendly School project was introduced, some schools were against this initiative because I might say they had low knowledge about what Amnesty International Ghana was or their activities that they carry. But then the office took it upon themselves to educate and then motivate these teachers. And then in the long run, they acted as focal points. So when you go to most of the human rights friendly schools in Ghana now, we have teachers that are acting as patrons and matrons for these kids. And then if there is anything, the office reaches out to them, and then they in turn relays the information to the students. And also we have zonal leaders, we have regional coordinators that come up with ideas, but then they make sure it factors these kids in the human rights friendly schools. So I think there have been activities around menstrual hygiene, and then most of these activities or most of these projects are carried out in schools, senior high schools, primary schools. It's just to enlighten these young ones about their menstrual hygiene rights, and then things they need to know whenever they are menstruating. And then the office goes a long way to also give them incentives. And then this also helps, and also would look at community acceptance. So, you know, just as I was saying, sorry, most people have no knowledge about Amnesty International Ghana. So if the office visits communities, if they have dialogues with chiefs, local leaders, then they get understanding, or they get more knowledge on their human rights. So currently in Amnesty, we have local leaders as members, and then all these people were approached by the office, and then the organization's vision and mission were explained to them, and then hence they became interested in the organizations, and then currently they are members for the organization. So if anything has to do with community engagement, since you have a local leader that believes in your vision and vision, then it makes it easy for you to carry out whatever activity you have to carry out in that particular community. Okay, so also we can also look at the support Amnesty gives to people who are interested in human rights. So sometimes there is capacity building, and then in some cases, it could be the media. In some cases, it could be some of the local leaders, and sometimes the teachers as well, or the regional coordinators. And then this capacity building also incorporates in them a sense of willingness, or a sense to let others know. So with the media, for instance, we have a show on TV, and then it has like series of videos and then lessons or tackled issues that is being shown to the public on some specific timelines, and then these shows have more information, and then they tend to keep the general public abreast with human rights human rights education. Yes. So this, I think, are some of the factors that have made human rights education possible in the human rights friendly schools in Ghana. Yeah.
This was our little experience sharing. I hope you all learned a bit more. And now I will pass to James, I believe.
Thank you very much, Rodrigo, and thank you as well, Mabel, for those beautiful answers. I think we got a very good picture of what the human rights friendly schools journey has meant to both of you as young leaders, and what it can also do for the coming generation, replicating Amnesty's model or improving it and scaling it up so that we're doing a lot more in more regions as well. Okay, now we'll take some questions from the audience for myself, Louisa, Rodrigo, and Mabel. If anyone would like to unmute and ask, that's also okay. We can also take questions in the chat.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm Meki Spanda from Zimbabwe. I'm actually programming with the schools in the Matabeleland region here in Zimbabwe. And with the district where we are operating, we have got 119 primary schools and 37 secondary or high schools. I'm really keen to see if there is a way we can also integrate this kind of approach on human rights, especially starting with the school children, even at ECD level up to tertiary level, because I think these are some of the lessons that they can still embrace while they're at school. So my question is there a replicable program that one could also bring to the attention of our local Ministry of Education so that we see how we can integrate this into the education curriculum? Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much for that question. Yes, thank you. Okay. Let me pass this quick one to Louisa, and then I'll give a short response as well.
Okay, thank you, James. I think the best persons to answer this is someone from the IS. Sorry to pass the floor, but I can share already that there are a lot of documentation and guidelines available to help build something like this experience. And human rights friendly schools projects is quite flexible, so we kind of have these guides and this documentation that can help us, but it's very, at least in Portugal, and I believe also in Ghana and other countries who are dealing with it, it's very flexible in the way that it should address issues that are really important for the schools, for the countries. We have this model and this approach, this human rights education approach, which is replicable. But concerning, contents and issues and human rights themes, I think it's very adaptable and should be very adaptable to who decide to go along with the project, because I think it's the main strength of the project is to bring people to talk about human rights also in a local perspective, also in inside the school or in the region, and like this, also bringing some global perspectives along, like creating this balance between international and national issues. And yeah, I think it's that. So James, if you want to add, and then maybe
Yes, great. Thank you very much, Louisa. I think that was very spot on. So much like Louisa said, the human rights friendly school model is very flexible and has to be context based. So that also means the approach to entry into the schools will also be based on the context. How do you get the attention of administrations and also buy-in of parents? Because we know that engaging students is not always the most effective unless we're engaging, a whole school approach. So Ruth just shared some information on the human rights friendly schools and some more ideas on the whole school approach that I think can definitely be replicated elsewhere with a sharp focus on what the context requires, and what would work best within or what topics would be best to use as entry points within those schools and those environments. Thank you very much for that question. Can we take another question now from the audience?
James, there is one question for, one for you, one for all in the chat, if you want to.
Okay.
My name is,
let me see.
So many countries are.
Yes, so it says that how many countries does AI human rights schools have presence in? And the next one says, please, James and Mabel, can you say more about how the human rights schools are helping combat the high levels of bullying among young people in schools in Ghana or elsewhere, and more importantly, promote peace? Okay. So we can take I'll let Louisa take the first question, and then I can take the second one on behalf of Mabel and I. Okay.
I'm not sure I have the exact numbers for this now.
Yes.
Because we don't have this global picture. I mean, when we entered the project, I think there were around 30 countries or something, and there was presence in every corner or geographically dispersed. There were schools in Europe, in Africa, in Asia, in Americas. But right now I'm not sure about it. We have some connections, but not with all the schools that are involved. I don't know if someone from the IS has these numbers, or if there's any way to get right figures about this.
Yes. And also in Ghana, because of the flexibility and the way we transitioned our school program into a club system, just so that it's more in tune with what other organizations are doing and what's more common in the school environment. We now are tracking that based on how many schools we have human rights school clubs in. And so that's still a good number, successfully over, I would say, 20 schools that we're currently engaging. And then we're also scaling up more into universities, which is what we're not able to do before in our earlier program, where we focus more on senior high schools. And just to segue directly into the second question on how the program has helped in combating high levels of bullying among young people in schools in Ghana, is we know while it was most active up until 2019 that we reported a lot more cases of students bringing up issues of bullying to school administrations and pursuing justice, or the increased knowledge that there was access to justice and that bullying was not something that students should allow to go on continuously in the dark. And since we've transitioned to human rights school clubs, we are still looking at ways of scaling up so that we are reaching more schools with that message. But we know that the ideas of human rights and defending yourself are becoming very popular online with young people and with the audiences that we engage, and also in reports from our school patrons when they do their engagements. We know that students are more vocal about bringing these issues up and more active in confronting those that will perpetuate bullying in these school environments. And I think we mark that as a good sign that significant progress has been made since 2014 when, for example, I was a young person in schools. I remember the ways in which that we would tend to protect perpetrators of this kind of violence and discrimination. And what we didn't know then as much is just how much power that individual voices within the school community could have. And I think the Human Rights Friendly Schools program shows that that power is possible, and that kind of people power can be harnessed by young people to stand against bullying within their school environments and within the communities as well. So as we continue to work on improving our school clubs in high schools and in universities, I think we can continue to hope that a greater culture of respect for human rights grows and bullying and harassment online and offline are properly addressed.
James, if I can just add something about the last part of the question, which is about promoting peace.
Yes.
Because we had a recent experience in the last year. We were really focused on the conflict on Gaza, and what we find out in schools, there was a lot of how to say this? Well, the situation was not oh, I miss one word. People doesn't know don't have knowledge of the situation, don't know about the conflict, don't know about the background. So this is quite difficult to act or to promote something around the issue if you don't have this background information. So one thing that we did in last year was to go further on this issue, is to try to bring information for people to get to know the background, the context, all the things around this conflict in Gaza. And it was it was difficult because we had some well, opposition really from some members in schools and also with parents, and also but I think it was one very important way to bring students and also to bring families, because we also brought families to parents to these sessions to talk about this issue. And it was really important to set the basis, so to get this information about the conflict and about, well, the situation in Gaza and Israel, in order to get people mobilized to act. Because what we faced in the first place is that people were very well, they were not able to participate in things that we were proposing in this subject. So it's this thing that I was talking in the beginning. It's bringing knowledge about things. It's deepening the subject. It's trying to bring information about the human rights issues and get people to be more informed, and likewise to be more active also in getting in actions and in getting also solutions.
Okay, thank you, Luisa. Okay, we have one question for Rodrigo, and it's from Ava Trinayan, and the question is, hello everyone. Rodrigo, could you tell a bit more on how you managed to promote discussions about privilege in relation to HRE?
So the presentation was done out of school context, in such say it was in the school's library, yes, but it was out of hours. And how did we do it? There was no direct connection to human rights education, but it was based on how other presentations were done for it. We had a presentation with 3 different students from different nationalities that had a better insight into privilege. That was one of the ways that we had a discussion, we had a presentation how they suffered without the lack of privilege in Portugal in itself and in the countries they came from. One was from Brazil, the other one was from Angola, and the other one was from, if I'm not in the wrongs, from Bangladesh, because he was an international student. We had a little conversation. It was informal. We talked about how they suffered under the lack of privilege, and then we had example, and then we did an example game that is really common in the Portuguese school and most likely outside. It's a privilege game where each person is given a different persona on a little piece of paper. It says, imagine I'm a white woman, I have 3 kids, I don't have a job. Then another one is, I am an immigrant from Arabia, I don't work, and I have 0 kids, or so on. Different types of personalities, different types of persona, and then there's a main person that asks questions such as, are you able to walk in the night outside without having fear? And then most people, if you do have that right, you step 1 step ahead. And we ask like 30 questions, and then at the end we look around, and the people that get the, like, I'm a white man, I own a business, that I right in the front, but that have all the privilege on the right, look back at the people like the immigrants or the women without any power, the sex workers, etc. And then we have a little conversation about it, how some people have privilege and the others don't. That game came from Amnesty and a human rights friendly school encounter, and we took it a lot of times, and we do it on different topics. And I think it's a good way to have a conversation with youth, because this conversation was with youth, was with youngsters. It wasn't with adults. So that was a way that they could visualize privilege without just having to read or hear about it. I hope I answered the questions.
Yes, I think you answered the question very well. I think that privilege game is a very good icebreaker and a very good entry point into having conversations about privilege. And it's a good HRE methodology, and it speaks to our participatory action methodology that we try to perfect at Amnesty, and that's how we approach many of our engagements with youth. So thank you very much, Rodrigo, for that answer. I see one more question in the chat, and it says, what's Amnesty International's long-term vision for peace and human rights in education globally? So if I may just take this question, I would say our long-term vision is to continue to work with various UN bodies and UN organizations to promote human rights education, to promote the World Program for Human Rights Education, which I believe is reaching a different phase now, which is centered now on digital rights and meaningful youth participation. I think if we continue to work with these bodies as well as other civil society organizations and all well-meaning rights-based actors who are functioning within the system to promote advocacy for all marginalized groups and to help end different kinds of wars and genocides, we're definitely going to achieve that vision where human rights are culturally respected across the world, appreciated and defended by states as is their duty to their citizens. And of course, a stronger movement of activists across the world who safeguard human rights, because we know, looking back at the way human rights have been rolled back in several countries this year, that human rights are not just hard won, they're also hard kept. And activists and human rights defenders across the world must stand, they must hold the fort down continually, generation after generation, which is why this school program's lifelong activist journey is so important to us, is that from each generation, wherever anti-rights actors may arise, there will always be defenders like us to be in the gap to ensure that that vision of human rights and a peaceful world is realized for all of us eternally. If anyone would like to add to that question, add to that answer, sorry. Yeah. Okay, I think that's okay. Do we have any more questions in the chat or otherwise?
I do have a question.
Yes, please.
My name is Briston Kaninga from Malawi. I'm a secondary school teacher, currently employed, but it was last year. So I can say I've done it for a full academic year. But the problem I've seen in the rural secondary school which I'm teaching is cultural perspective. I can say the battle between culture and the school setting itself. I can see that many children, especially girls, are affected, or there is what you can say a conflict between culture and the school. Mostly because of, maybe I can say, initiation ceremony. Even during the holidays, we find girls being put into initiation ceremonies for being initiated into adulthood. And most of them, I was a form teacher in Form 1, I discovered that 4 of the girls were found pregnant, left out of school. We called some of the elders, like the chiefs, to have some discussions on how we can improve the performance of girls in the school. So we suggested some of the ways, like maybe the girls to be living within the school, and teachers to be around there, guiding them and inviting them over for some remedial classes during the day, so that maybe they should not find that space to do other activities. However, it seems the cultural aspect still remains a burden, because you find the girls going out. If we don't do this, the community will be harmful for us. So my question was, how best can you, maybe the group, as you the facilitator, how can you help us in such of the scenarios as a teacher? What can I do to help improve or give confidence to the girls or to the young people, so that they should know better their rights, regardless of the cultural aspects which are there? Yes, we respect them, but also the rights to education as well. They're also important. So another scenario,
Absolutely.
an
Thank you.
example,
Yeah.
yeah, it could be,
Um,
you see, many girls who could leave for classes, saying they are going to a funeral the whole day without attending classes. So that is the problem which you are facing. So how can
Thank you very
you?
much, Briston. Yes. So I believe your question is, how do you remedy that conflict between culture
Yeah,
and also
that com-
promoting human rights within a context such as yours, where women to the background and is creating a different set of aspirations for them. So it's quite dicey, I would say, but from our experience here in Ghana, because we're also, for example, leading a major campaign against witchcraft accusations, which also has a lot to do with superstition and deeply rooted cultural beliefs. First and foremost, document the stories of those who are survivors of this unfortunate experience to make or to help build more empathy, but also directly addressing traditional leaders and helping them be or building their capacity to lead the engagement with their communities about the harmful effects of this phenomenon. And as part of our human rights education, we're also helping to build the skill and understanding of how dynamic culture is, looking at the community's own history and how different things have changed at different times based on community needs. And as part of our training, we try and emphasize that human rights education is rooted in human dignity above all else. Okay, before the laws that we have now locally and internationally, there's that deep idea that was entrenched when we first came about human rights, is that human rights are afforded a certain level of dignity, and nothing and absolutely nothing can take that away, be it cultural or other significant considerations, because all of those things were made by human beings for human beings. But what none of us could have made for ourselves is the human dignity that is inherent in all of us, and that human rights laws now protect for all of us. Okay. And so those clustered engagements, trying to get traditional leaders to be the leaders in change thinking, is something that we've consistently worked at. Also helping sure that the members that we have who are from our movement within those localities are also leading those engagements. So with our regional coordinators, they help other members within their locality organize education activities with community leaders and with school children, that's involving parents, community leaders, and everyone within the locality to try and address an issue. We've been working a lot now on child community protection and using very simple toolkits for bringing up the conversations of what it means to nurture a child from the very earliest stages of development right through adolescence, and what citizens who contribute successfully to our community. So it's definitely not a one size fits all thing, and it will have to be a touch and go process with various communities. But I think silos or getting different groups trained and having their capacity built, having the movement or having dedicated activists with a presence on the field who can also help broker more of those conversations around changing culture to better respect human rights ways that we can work around bringing communities into an understanding of having this culture shift, or the need to have our culture shift towards being more respectful of the human rights question, because it's a very loaded one. Did we have his hand up?
Yeah, I had a question, but I wanted to also be mindful of time. Do we have time for one more question? Yeah, perfect. Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for the presentation. I've learned a lot, and it's really about the context of human rights education in different places. My question is more about challenges, particularly around topics within human rights education. If you had to navigate any challenges around talking about abortion, LGBTQ rights, comprehensive sexual education, that's something that we face here in Puerto Rico, and I know it's a conversation with other spaces. So I just wanted to hear more about if that has showed up and what have been some way of navigating these challenges.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we will let me let Rodrigo answer this question, and then I'll see if Louisa, Mabel, and myself can add anything else within the time we have left.
From restrictions I know about, most focus in my group here in my university, not in my high school, because high school we needed to follow the rules from the superior. Here we have some limitations given on what Amnesty can do and cannot do. For a few months ago, we couldn't say that it was a genocide happening in Gaza, given that Amnesty needs to keep up with their neutrality and so on. Just after the investigation was done, we could affirm that. Besides that, our group doesn't have like the limitations. We always need to confirm if we can do something, but it's more on the logistic side and probably a limit on if we can talk about queer community or if we can talk about abortion. I think everything in general we can do. We just need to confirm if it's inside the legal part of everything. At least here in Portugal, given that the stigma isn't as strong and the conversations can be led without any legal repercussion, we can do most of the things, yes, without any problem. We just need to confirm if everything is okay. So maybe Mabel or James can add, given the different contexts from Ghana to Portugal.
All right, so thank you very much.
Yes, Mabel. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. For Ghana, I think Ghana is a bit more cultural when it comes to human rights related issues. And then for now, conversations around LGBTQ plus is something that is not really spoken of because of the cultural background of Ghana. So when there were times that there were issues regarding people who are in that group, and then Amnesty Ghana tried to defend the rights of these ones, and then I think the country had to stand up against it because of their cultural background. But then still, the office is in talks to ensure that the rights of the all people under this group are being protected. And also when it comes to the comprehensive sexual education, it got to a time where civil societies in Ghana had wanted to push for it to be added to the curriculum in Ghana, but then due to cultural background, most parents and the most leaders were opposing it. But I think it's something all civil societies and even Amnesty can come together to ensure that it's being implemented. Because when I for one think when the young ones are enlightened at a young age, it goes a long way to prevent a lot of unwanted social vices in the community. Yeah. So when it comes to challenges with regards to these topics, yeah, there are challenges. But then in tackling them, the office uses both dialogue and also the open forum approach to ensure that both parties are heard, and then at the end of the day, no party leaves being hurt or no party leaves without being heard. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, Rodrigo and Mabel, for your questions. Okay. Sorry for your responses. So I guess we've just come to the very end of our session now. So I'll hand over back to Kate to round us up. Thank you all very much for making the time to join us. And thank you, Rodrigo, Mabel, and Louisa, and also Ruth and Kate. I'll pass on to Ruth as well, to Kate now to close.
Thank you, James. And yeah, I just want to say, like, do a quick round of thank yous. So and I think this has been really such an interesting webinar. I've really enjoyed it. And I don't know who was saying we had to, I think maybe it was someone was saying we had to motivate teachers to motivate students, but certainly this webinar has motivated me, and I'm sure it's motivated everyone. So just first of all, thank you to our speakers, to Rodrigo, to Mabel, also to Louisa and James. And like, I wouldn't even attempt or try to repeat anything you've to summarize, but I think that if people can bear with me just sort of 30 seconds or 1 minute, there were some things that really struck me, loads of things, but I thought it was really important what, and we just came back to what Rigo said at the beginning about being in the human rights friendly schools, gave him that sense, gave him in the club, gave him that space for inclusion and to find like-minded people. And also like the point of emphasizing trusting young people who have a voice, who should have a voice and should be in decisions. I loved what you said, Mabel, about like you thought human rights were just for governments. And I think that's what people think. But now that you are an expert and you can create change anywhere, I love that. I thought that was brilliant. And also, I think Louisa and James were making a point about informed activism. Not, we want people to take action, but where education brings that information, it brings that knowledge, where we can really speak with the confidence that people have spoken about. And that sense of it's a lifelong journey, right? And I think, James, you made the point, we're now, we've always been battling for human rights, for peace, whether that's the absence of conflict or whether it's peace in that broader sense. And we're seeing some of the gains that were made really rolling back as well. So I think I was really struck by what you said about it's not just hard won, but we need to defend and, keep those rights. So just again, thank you to all the speakers. Thank you to our co-organisers. Thank you to my colleagues at Amnesty, Ruth and Ali in particular, who have supported the organisation of this. And most importantly, thank you to everybody who joined today. We really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you. We look forward to meeting you in other spaces and creating the peace between us collectively. So take care, everybody. Thanks very much.